Hi guys, and welcome back to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whiskey blog. I'm Andy and I'm back here today with another whiskey review. The whiskey that I'm looking at today is a Speyside single malt Scotch whiskey. It is a distillery that is kind of in the middle of people's periphery, I would probably say. It is not one of the more famous distilleries, but it is also in the mindset of whiskey drinkers. It is a distillery that is owned by Gordon Macphail, the independent bottler. It is a distillery that underwent a branding change recently that kind of took it back to some more traditional branding. Not everybody liked it. I can kind of see why in a way, but I'm also not that bothered either, to be honest. It's still the same spirit. Now, the bottle that I have predates that rebrand. This was bottled in November 2018. It's only been open for about 6 months or so though. So ultimately, the whiskey inside the bottle in the new version has not changed. It's this, the Benromach 15-year-old. Now, I would show you the box, but I'm pretty ruthless with certain boxes and things that don't fit on the shelf in terms of size, and I got rid of it a little while ago. Now, it is a very nice aesthetic, all right, it is. I had the benefit of manning the Benromach stand at the Manchester Whisky Festival in 2014, so I actually poured this whiskey as part of that lineup. I must have had thousands of people coming for drams on that day, and if you've ever worked a whisky festival, it's exhausting but very rewarding. If you've attended one, all I'll say is be very nice to the people behind the table. So, Benromach 15. Benromach is very, very interesting in the sense that it keeps a very traditional Speyside character. Now, I'll pull you up first because people think a traditional Speyside character is sort of like sweet, fruity, honeyed, sherried whiskies. That wasn't always the case. Back in the day, there wasn't, you know, steam and electric heaters and, you know, various other things to put under the malting floors to malt your barley. So what did they have to burn instead? Peat. Islay whiskies, Laphroaig, Ardbeg, some Bunnahavens to some extent, your Carlilas, Kilchoman, Bowmore, etc. You get the idea. They are seen as the peated, smoky whiskies of the Scotch whisky industry. That wasn't always the case. Back in the day, a lot of whiskey was peated. By pure default, that what they had to burn as fuel was peat. That's why the style came about. And what Gordon Macphail did when they bought Benromach is they wanted to kind of recreate that. It's a nostalgia whiskey, if you will. Now, it's only lightly peated. I had several people come up to me on the stand nearly 10 years ago now. Wow, that's scary. About 7 years ago, if we're being honest. And saying, oh, I don't like peat, I don't like smoke. And in fairness, there's a little bit of it present in pretty much everything they produce. But it's not, I'm not even tasting it or smelling it yet, but I'm letting you know. It is not a Laphroaig, it is not a Carlila, it is not an Ardbeg, so don't let that put you off if you don't like peated or smoky whiskey. Now, this has been matured in a combination, I believe, of ex-bourbon and ex-sherry casks. I can't remember off the top of my head which one's what type, I'll be honest, but here we are. It's bottled at 43%. It is natural colour, which means that no E150A caramel colouring has been added to hide any little light coloured demons, which I don't care about. And it is non-chill filtered. So it is unchill filtered. So all that texture, all those oils, enzymes and things should be kept in one piece, in theory. So, I mean, just to show you, again, sorry guys, 43%. Hopefully you can see that. And it is a nice label. I mean, they used to have the box, and it was quite nice at the festival. It was like a copper box, like the actual copper effect with like little rivets on it, and you could actually take the lid off, and the lid acted as a little plastic bottle stand, which was pretty cool. It wasn't very stable though. Several people knocked bottles over on the stand that I manned, and stole one as well from memory. Cheeky git. Anyway, the colour. light copper, and I will comment on the colour because it is natural, that is why I do. If it is not natural colour, I will just take the mick. So, a light copper. In terms of legs on the glass, they're very, very quick. Not too much of a rim. Now on the nose, the smoke is there, alright? But it's a very light smoke. For me, the smoke that Benromach carries, and I'm going to say this up front, doesn't provide a sort of like blast you away sort of smoke, you know, like a coughing smoke, like, oh God, like you've walked into a room full of stupid old billionaires smoking expensive cigars. It adds structure, it adds backbone, it adds depth, and it does that really, really well. This sits alongside a really nice sort of light toffee, tobacco leaf, so those cigars that I was talking about, but they're not lit yet, thankfully. A tiny bit of fruitiness. And I've mentioned the box used to be a copper effect. There is sort of like a warm copper coin kind of thing going on here as well. You know, when you've had coins in your pocket for a while. It softens, become quite herbaceous. It smells a little bit creamy as well, to be fair to it. Bit of orange zest, perhaps, as well. On the palate. Good texture. Softens straight away. However, the smoke does come back. Yes. But again, whilst you recognise it's smoky, right, it is smoky. No getting around it. But that isn't what takes centre stage like a lot of your Islay whiskies. Some people actively seek out that smoke. You're going to meet it somewhere along the way in this whiskey, but it's not the main event. You've got chocolate, really nice milky chocolate. You've got some of those red fruits that I mentioned from the nose, maybe some sort of like berries, raspberries, bit of cherry perhaps. Slightly creamy again. You've got that herbaceous note. It becomes drying into the finish. You've got a fair bit of oak influence in there. At the end of the day, this whiskey has been sat in wood. A wooden container for 15 years, minimum 15 years. It's going to impart some of its oakiness to it, isn't it? Let's face it. I think my only criticism of Benromach is not going that extra 3, 4 or 5% up to 46, 47, 48. It's got a lot of character, and that's what I've always said about Benromach as a distillery. It is incredibly characterful spirit. It's an incredibly characterful distillery, to be fair. But I just think it needs a bit of a push, particularly when you get to this kind of level. You do get there is a 100 proof bottling that's 50%, which is very, very intense, very lovely, akin to the 10-year-old on speed, basically. This is a little bit more refined. It's a little bit softer. It's a little bit more, well, obviously mature as well. Let's not forget it's been in cask for an extra 5 years over the 10-year-old, for example. But it still offers a lot of bang for buck. I mean, I think this retails now for about 50 something quid. Maybe 55, 60 quid, something like that. It's a lovely whiskey, yes, but what I would say is that this has been open a little while and I've not bought a new version of it. Not because I'm averse to the rebrand. Again, a lot of people got so sensitive about it. And I think us as whiskey drinkers and in the whiskey community, we're very, very sensitive people. We don't like change. unless it's for the better, apparently, and then everyone's all for it. But as soon as they see something they don't like, that's it, it's game over. There's people like, I'll never buy your product again. I'm like, mate, it's a label, chill out. The whiskey hasn't changed. It looks like a cheap bottom shelf bourbon. Again, does it change what is inside the bottle? No. If you like it that much, you'll still buy it. And I do like this. I think Benromach is one of those things that I will buy once in a blue moon because I've got so many other options out there. But it is a quality distiller, and you know, Gordon Macphail know what they're doing. You know, they're an independent bottler. They know what a good cask looks like. They know what a good whiskey looks like. It's their entire, you know, job. That's the reason they're around. So they've imparted some of that knowledge and some of that ethos into Benromach, and I'm really glad they did. So guys, I'm going to box it off now. Thanks for watching. If you're on Twitter, I'm at Maltbox. Instagram at Maltbox Whisky. Thanks for watching. See you soon.